Right. So let's do the discussion of the MCQs in the RTP Jan 25 exams for the CA Intermediate Audit. Okay. Right. So MCQs are a good way for us to analyze, our conceptual understanding, our confidence in, the deciding upon the correct answer for a particular question. Okay. Right. So, first one, the case scenario. Joy Limited, a company engaged in the business of trekking essentials, appointed CA Raj as the statutory auditor for the year. Due to large volume of transactions, the audit engagement team of CA Raj realized that it would not be feasible to audit each transaction separately during the financial year under audit. Therefore, engagement partner decided to apply the following audit sampling techniques. That means we are going towards SA 530 audit sampling. Random number tables were used for selection of sample for power, telephone, and the fuel charges. So makes it very clear that they've used the random selection for the first one. No structured method of sampling was used for the office stationery. So that means we are talking about the haphazard sampling. Transactions exceeding 8,000 were selected for the travel expenses. That means we are talking about the value weighted selection, the monetary unit sampling. And the first 200 sales invoice from the sales book for the month of July were selected for the sales, right? So first 200 sales invoice, that means they've done the block selection. Right. So as per SA 530, we talk about the sample selection methods, namely the brush. Right. We have the block selection, random selection, monetary unit sampling, then the systematic selection and the haphazard selection. Okay. Then Suresh, one of the team members, compared the salary expense incurred by the company during the current year with those of the previous 5 years. That means now Suresh is performing the analytical procedure, comparison with the previous year. He noticed a significant percentage increase in the expenses. We say you perform analytical procedure and then identify inconsistency, you need to investigate. That is, make inquiries of the management and perform other audit procedures as appropriate. This unusual increase raised doubts in his mind. He decided to compare such an increase in the salary expense with the increase in the number of employees. The company is having warehouse at two locations. Raj is planning to attend the physical inventory count process. That means they are addressing SA 501, audit evidence specific consideration for selected items. And the first selected items of 501 is the existence and condition of the inventory. The inventory includes finished products such as trekking jacket, bag, shoes, etc., and raw material like leather, cloth, chemical. Some of the inventory is also held by a third party. During a discussion amongst the team members regarding the sufficiency appropriateness of audit evidence, they agreed that sufficiency is the measure of the quantity and appropriateness is the measure of the quality of the audit evidence. So SA 500, we are talking about the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So actually reading this particular case scenario is a good revision of our content also. Joy Limited operates 100 stores on rented premises across the country and is in the process of expanding. Although the rent expense have been accounted for, the auditor requested the management to provide all the active rent agreements for the year during the year under audit for the detailed examination. That means again for the rent expenditure, the auditor wants to do the vouching verification. So for that, he's asked for the active rent agreements. Okay. Based on the above, answer the following question. Which of the sampling techniques were used for the following transaction? Right. So power, telephone, and the fuel charges. So power, telephone, and the fuel charges, right? So power, telephone, and the fuel charges, they've used the random selection of the sample, right? So random selection. So wherever random sampling is given, that could be a probable answer. So anyways, B is out. Right. Then after that, the second one over there is the office stationery. So office stationery, it says no structured technique. That means it is the haphazard sampling, right? That means it is the haphazard sampling. So wherever haphazard sampling is given, that is the probable option. So again, systematic sampling, option A is out. Right. Then after that, we have the travel expenses, right? Then the next one we have over there is the travel expenses. So now we have to consider between, right, C and D. Now for both C and D, you see it is monetary unit sampling. So anyways, C will be travel expenses is monetary unit sampling. So now basically we need to check for the sales. Sales, what does it say? The first 200 sales invoice. That means they have done the block sampling. So now let us see where they have given the block sampling. It is given in the option C. right? So that is why systematic sampling, the D option also out. Right, so this is how first we eliminated the option B, then the option A, then D, and then finalized with C. Okay, right. Which audit procedure was Mr. Suresh intending to perform by comparing the salary expense of the current year with that of the previous 5 year? Is it test of detail? No. Is it test of balances? No. Is it test of control? No. It is the substantive analytical procedure as per SA 520, which can be performed either by doing the comparisons or by checking the relationships. Okay. Which of the following is not a part of CA Raj's responsibility with respect to the inventory held by the third party? Which is not a part of CA Raj's responsibility? So Raj should obtain the confirmation from the third party. Yes, it is a responsibility regarding the quantity and condition of inventory held by them. CA Raj should perform an independent valuation of the inventory based solely on the company's internal records. Looks weird, but let us see the other points. CA Raj should request the third party to allow him to physically inspect the inventories held by them. Right? So either you obtain the confirmation or you go and perform the inspection of inventory lying with the third party. That is the responsibility. CA Raj should review the terms of engagement between the company and the third party to understand the responsibilities related to inventory management. So again, that is CA Raj's responsibility. So what is not the responsibility of CA Raj? It is the point B. Okay, right. Then which audit procedure was used by CA Raj while collecting all the rent agreement, right? So when he was collecting the rent agreement, was he doing the inspection, analytical procedure, observation, reperformance, or the observation, right? So there is no comparison over here. You're not performing any procedure again. You're not taking a look at a process or a procedure being performed by others. Rather, you're verifying a document. So you're verifying the active rent agreement. So that is inspection, right? So that is A. In the given case, the audit team of CA Raj discusses the sufficiency, appropriateness of the audit evidence. In the context of Joy Limited audit, the audit team was considering various factors affecting the sufficiency of the evidence they gathered for large volume transaction. Which of the following is not a factor that would influence the auditor's judgment on the sufficiency of the audit evidence? Right? So what do we say? Audit evidence, it should be sufficient and appropriate. Sufficiency refers to the quantity. Appropriateness refers to the quality. And then quality means two things. It should be relevant and reliable. Right? It should be relevant and reliable. What are the factors affecting the sufficiency of the audit evidence? Sample size, number of samples, MRS. Materiality of the item, risk of material misstatement, size and characteristics of the population. So which of the following is not a factor? Right? So materiality, it is a factor. Risk of material misstatement, it size and characteristics of the population being audited, it is the factor. So type of products of Joy Limited, which Joy Limited manufactures, that is not a factor affecting the sufficiency, the quantity, the number of samples of the audit evidence. Right? So that completes the case scenario. Now we come to the general MCQ. CA Sumit, during the process of the assembly of the audit file after the completion of the audit, briefed his team on the changes to be made in the audit documentation. Which of the following changes can be made during the audit assembly stage? Right? So the assembly of the final audit file has to be completed on a timely basis after the audit report date, and it has to be completed within not more than 60 days after the date of the audit report. And what do we say? It is an administrative process. You cannot perform any new procedure. You cannot reach any new conclusion. Right? So can you, yes, what does it say? What is they are doing? Which of the following changes can be made? Sorting, collating, cross-referencing working paper? Yes, this is an administrative work. Deleting, discarding, superseded, the overlapped documentation? Yes. Recalculation of depreciation, recalculation of interest and loans? No. You cannot perform any new audit procedure. You cannot reach any new conclusion. What you can do is only the administrative work. Like signing off on the completed checklist related to file assembly, right? So that's again an administrative work, right? So what would be the correct option wherever we have the A, B, right? And the E. Okay. So now you see over here another way that sorting, collating, cross-referencing working paper included. That is why wherever there is A, C, D, that will be the option. So C, B is anyways out. Now deleting or discarding superseded document, yes, again only now A has that option. So anyways, we can directly finalize it. Okay, right. Next one. Rao is conducting an audit for ABC Limited, a large client. He is informed by the client CFO that if they report certain deficiency, the auditor's firm may not be considered for future engagement. So it's like, keeping the auditor at gunpoint. Right? So if you report the deficiency, firm may not be considered for future engagements. Which type of threat does this scenario represent? Right? So there are 5 types of threats to the independence of the auditor: familiarity threat, self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, and the intimidation threat, right? So here it is an intimidation threat, wherein that's a threatening threat, right? They're dhamki de rahe type of to the auditor. Okay. And CA Kaushal, the statutory auditor of FEMO Limited, obtained the trade receivable aging report, analyzed it, identified the doubtful debts during the audit of the accounts receivable balance. Which balance sheet assertion is CA Kaushal intending to check? Right? So he's checking the trade receivable. That means he's checking a balance sheet item. For a balance sheet item, we want to check the ERCV. Right? He's checking the aging of the debtors. He's also checking the doubtful debts. So in order to check the amount, right? So is it going to be the ERCV? Is it going to be valuation, rights and obligation, existence or completeness? So this is relating to the amount of the debtor. So it should be the valuation. Right, so that completes our discussion for the MCQ questions which are there in the RTP of the Jan 25. Right, in the next video, we will discuss the prescriptive questions also. Okay.